Okay, one of the issues that we have with the RST Killah forks on the Sur Ron is that the forks end up getting dirty here, and they end up sticking. And if you do a lot of woods riding, it's important to lube, take off the lowers and lube these, and we're going to show you how to do that. Special thanks to Trevor at RST Racing for helping us understand how to take off the lowers and clean them and lube them. As indicated, one of the advantages to the Sur Ron and working on it is that you can turn it upside down because there won't be any fluids leaking. And at this point, we're ready to take off the brake here with the Allen wrench. 1, 2, and also don't forget to take off the stay, which is here. And I'm not sure what that is. I think that's an Allen screw as well. And we'll take off the brake. Okay. And we're just taking off the brake here. And make sure that you put it nearby so that it doesn't, you don't lose it. And that's the second disc brake bolt. That's it, grab it and just let it down slowly. Okay. And then let's also do the stay, which is right here. And just take off the brake stay here. The lowers are actually coming off, so that's a small screw. You don't really want to lose it. Okay. So one thing we want to notice here, as you can see, we're turning this the wrong way to loosen it. You have to be very, very careful that comes out, turning it the opposite way from what you're used to, and we're upside down on the bike, so that's actually usually on the left side of the bike. And then the other axle bolt comes out when you turn this one correctly to pull that bolt out. We're going to pull that axle out of there, and we'll pop the wheel off here in just a second. That we have the wheel off, we're going to unscrew the left bolt, and once you get the wheel off, we're going to unscrew the left stanchion here. Okay, and then once you get it halfway out, it may or may not come out of the rod below, but what you're going to do is you're going to just take a hammer and just tap on it very gently, and when we open this up, you'll see what that rod is that we're trying to release it from. But once it's removed, you can take that bolt out and actually just put it to the side. Put it to the side and make sure you keep it carefully. And on this side, there's a Phillips head screw that is, this is the compression adjuster that you have to take off first. So there's going to be a Phillips head screw. Let me get to this side. The Phillips head screw here, and basically you're going to put those to the side. Put it to the side very carefully. And also there's a 10mm wrench. What you don't want to do here is you don't want to ruin any of this part, but you want to use your 10mm wrench to loosen that up. And we're not going to have to do too much before we can do it by hand. Here we have it all set, and pop that off, and okay, put that to the side as well. And believe it or not, the forks are ready to pull off, so go ahead and just pull those right up, both of them. Pull it. It'll kind of not want to come off too easily. You got to kind of smack a little bit. There you go. And let's see what those look like. Now that we have those off, those are our lowers, and we're all set, and we're going to go to the next section. Okay. When you get the lowers off, what you're going to notice is there's actually the connection here. The connection here is there is a rubber ring that's inside the lower, as well as a spacer that's inside the lower that we cannot see. Those are in the bottom of the fork right there, and we're going to leave them there, but they might come loose. And what you just simply need to know is that round, heavier, fatter rubber goes on this side of the fork inner tube, and the spacer goes toward the very bottom of the lower. Now you notice this is why we may need to tap a little bit to loosen the nut from the lower, is because sometimes this is threaded and it gets stuck, but we need that to be released, and that's why we tap it. Notice on this side, it looks like this side is pretty well lubed, but what we're going to do is we're going to actually just clean that up a little bit, probably put some more lube on that as well. So when you pull the lowers off, we're going to basically be cleaning inside here. There's actually, it's going to be difficult to see, but there's a felt ring that's in there that appears to be in pretty good shape, although it needs to be cleaned. There's also a bunch of dirt that's in there. Okay, maybe you can see that felt ring possibly a little bit from this angle, but that's like right at the end of my finger that might come out. And there's a seal, and if the seal looks worn, we're going to replace those. We would replace those, but they don't look bad. We're just going to clean them up. Notice how much gunk is here on this one seal. When I wipe that even with my finger, there's a bunch of gunk, so we need to clean that up. Inside here, we're going to take a drill with a rag, and we're going to clean up the inside of this, and then we're going to also lube it up really well with slick oleum. Okay, here's where we need to clean on the inside of your lowers with a rag. I use like a dowel with a drill, and I go down in here as well and spin this rag and clean this up the best we can before we put new grease in there. So we're going to do those with both fork legs, fork lowers, and we're going to clean around there and see if we can get those cleaned out as nicely as we can. I'm going to use slick oleum here, which is this stuff. There's a couple of different options for very light fork grease, and I'm going to just kind of liberally smear this stuff on the inside here, outside, make sure that we get it all lubed up. And when I get notice that the seals here are in pretty good shape. These are 36mm seal, and I won't go into how to replace them or the felts, but just as an example, this is what the felts in the seal kit looks like. We talked a little bit about the felts. Those are actually where the brush is pointing right now, around here, and you'd want to make sure that those are well lubed before you put them in. So lube up the inside primarily, quite as liberally as you can with some nice clean grease, and do this with both sides. We're going to also do the fork stanchions themselves, or fork tubes themselves, and lube these things up quite nicely, so that these don't tend to stick. I lubed up both the forks, the lowers, and also the fork tubes here. As you can probably see, we need to make sure that the pin comes through here, and also this lines up over here before we pop these on. Basically, the one thing that's important is that when you slide the leg on this side, the hole for those, there's a rubber grommet and a rubber plate. The plastic one is on this side, the rubber one is on this side, that goes down as a protector for this section. But you have to make sure that those line up when you put the forks on, as well as the seals have to make sure that they're nicely sealed around the tubes. And I'll get to that in 1 second. Okay, we slid the forks on. You definitely have to wiggle, or the lowers on. You definitely have to wiggle these back and forth. It's really important that you may need to put them on again when the seals are bunched over. You have to be very careful. I don't know if it helps or not, but I take off the keeper springs here first before I do it. I don't know if it lubes it up and makes it a little bit easier for the seals to go on. But make sure that these are actually nicely sealed all the way around and not crimped over on both forks. Okay, so we're gonna actually put the tubes back on. Before we start that, it's important that underneath here, that tube, or that bar, we have to thread into. And this will pop through pretty easily, but if you don't have the plastic washer here and the rubber grommet here, the way it's supposed to be inside this tube, you're not going to be able to line up that rod to come through that hole. So that's really an important part. So we're going to just spin that on, which is good. Okay, torque that down a little bit. We'll kind of torque it, and then we're going to move on to the other one. Okay, that's good. Then we're going to move on to the other side. We're just going to put that back together with the cap first. And we're going to put that on. That takes a 10mm wrench. And we're going to put that cap back on. And use a 10mm socket. Again, don't damage the, okay, that's good. Okay, then the compression cap goes back on, and that is with the Phillips head screwdriver. And let's see if we can get that on there a little bit better than that. Oops, of course I dropped the screw. Okay, we're going to put the screw back in, and that goes back on with a Phillips head wrench here, and we'll get this all tightened up and put the wheel back on, and we'll test things out here. Okay, so we're finding that these are much, the brakes are much, or the shocks are much smoother here, and you want to make sure that you clean this up, and also put these spring keepers back in here as well. And so we'll give it a shot, and we're going to go out and get muddy, and if we need to do it again, we will do it again soon. So thanks for watching. So thanks for watching, Mr. Knucklehead, and I'm sure that I used the wrong words many times in those clips. My apologies. Hopefully you can apply what you learned, and it might help you out get some smoother front acting forks with the RST Killah equipped Sur Rons. As I said, you might want to check out RST Racing, RISSE, RST Racing. They provided me the information on this video, and if you have any technical concerns or want them to upgrade forks, etc., they're the guys to go to. Ask for Trevor. Thanks for watching.